Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a video where we show the unboxing and explanation of the Nissan Wisefab S14 kit. It's one of my favorite kits. It's a very successful kit. A lot of championships have been won with that kit and there's a lot of R&D in it. The V2 version came out a couple of years ago. I'll show you some differences between the V2 and the V1 and I'll show you the latest upgrade in the rear. So check it out. So here we have the kit. This is the way it sits in the car. This is where the wheel bearing goes on. It's forward direction of the car. A couple things have been changed on this. This is basically the V2 version of the rear kit. One of the major changes is this control arm. If you take a look over here, you can see that it's now adjustable when it's in the car. So you loosen up this bolt and you can change the length of this nut, which will change your suspension geometry. A lot of guys will use that for the camber of the rear wheel. So that's one of the changes. Another change comes from the tie rod, so the one that people use to set the toe of the car. This one sits at the back, right over here. This is the rear of the car, so this is what, if you would be standing behind the car, you would be viewing this. And this piece has been changed, so it's made in a way that it can absorb some hits. The S chassis is not the strongest subframe, so if something would go wrong, if you would hit a wall or something, you don't want to bend the subframe, because on the cradle type subframe cars like S chassis GT86 or E90 for instance, it's a lot of work to change out the subframe. So we made these absorbing, so if you take a hit, this is going to be the weakest point. It's not going to break the knuckle or anything. This is also interesting. These slots, these two are for S13, these two are for S14, and the slots actually exist for Bumpsteer correction. And Bumpsteer basically is that if the car suspends, that you'll change the toe of the car by suspending in and out, and you should measure that and set it to your setting. So you can cancel the Bumpsteer out with this setting. On the front we have this arm, the number 3 arm, which can be used to set toe gain, which means that you can make the car toe in under load. So if the suspension goes up, it will also come in and give you some toe in there. This is generally not something that most people do. A lot of guys do not use any toe in, but if you wanted to have a toe gain setting, then you can use that. The normal toe in setting that we have in the rear is 3 to 10 millimeter per side, is what we recommend. If you change the length of this piece, you can actually change that, the static toe, so the toe setting that the car has, the way it sits, you can change it to more toe when it actually suspends. So if the shock gets compressed, you'll get even more toe. So we optimize the setting on this knuckle, and we made the toe gain adjustable, so you can totally remove the toe gain, or you can set it to a certain toe gain setting. If you're installing the kit, it's very important. If you take a look over here, the lower arm, which has a provision for the anti-roll bar, it's 2 different lengths. The longer one needs to go towards the front of the car. I think it's a very nice kit. The knuckle has had some modification in the V2. It's been reinforced, and this is where the shock absorber mounts in. I'm super happy to use these. Like, we have had very good results with these. It's very funny that one of my clients who drives a lot, he told me the biggest change on my car was the Wisefab rear kit. It was even a bigger change than the Wisefab front kit. So I was quite surprised to hear that, but it's a huge difference. The adjustability and also the improved position of the wheel hub, and now of course with the telescopic piece, it's also something that's going to save you in the battles. It's going to make sure that you make that 5-minute rule if something happens, and that you never have to change the subframe. Of course, there's also provisions for dual calipers. You can just put 2 calipers on it. So we can check out the weight of the unit. There you go, make sure that nothing is touching. You can see that it's 7.8 kilos with all the arms attached, and in pound, so that's 17.19 pounds for the whole assembly. In the rear on one side, of course, 7.8 kilos, and the hub itself, just the hub, is just under 4 kilos, which is very, very light. I think it's very, very good to use steel. As you can see, the biggest part of this knuckle consists of air. If you would make an aluminum piece, you would have to make a billet piece, which means that there's no air in it. It's fully solid out of aluminum, made from one billet of aluminum. A billet is what they call the block of aluminum that you machine it out. So a lot of people will say, yeah, but aluminum is lighter, but the aluminum piece will have a much higher saturation. There's not going to be any air in it. So I doubt that you could make an equally strong part from aluminum. And there's also another disadvantage of that, and this is obviously very easy. If you would be in a huge crash or something super weird would happen, you can still pound this the way you want it to be. You can easily weld it. It's much easier to fix. This is, I think, a very elaborate kit. Like, Wisefab spent a lot of time making this kit right. It was very, very good from the beginning, but with the little improvements over here, like the adjustment that a lot of people asked for, so we can adjust it without removing the arm. So I think this is extremely, extremely good value for money. My clients really, really love it. It's very, very well made. It's also very important to me that it's all made in Europe. So it's not made in with slave trade or something that you don't want to be part of. It's all made by the guys in Estonia. I know that they've tested everything. If you go to the Wisefab factory, you see a lot of test rigs going on, and they are very, very focused on putting the right stress points in the suspension, making sure that you'll always be able to continue the battle as quickly as possible if you crash. And of course, improve geometry. So that's the rear kit, guys. I hope you like it. You can comment what you think about it. Yeah, let me know. So here's the V2 front kit. This kit is ordered with a rack relocation. However, we'll do a separate video on the rack relocation, show you exactly how that's done. So we're not gonna be talking about this right now. What we'll be talking about is the rest of the kit. As you can see, it consists of the two arms. Something to know about these arms is that the S13 and S14 have different locations for this part. It's actually not very difficult to see. This one is for the S13 setting. It's not fixed right now because we don't know which car this kit's gonna go on. So this is the S13 setting, and this is the S14 setting. So you can see that on the S14 and S15, of course, the holes on the top are exposed, and on the S13 the holes are towards the arm. So that's so it's also for us a solution for people that go from an S13 chassis to an S14 chassis or S15. They don't have to change their setup. So that's one thing about that. Of course, the arm is very well known. Wisefab uses a very, very specific type of steel. Obviously a lot of engineering in this arm. The V2 can accommodate a little bit bigger wheels than the V1. The reason why that's done is because, especially in America, people started using bigger and bigger front wheels because the cars over there got so much grip, such a big tire in the back, such a grippy setup. If you talk to FD drivers, they'll tell you that it's almost like driving a low-powered car. That's how gripped up the cars are. This also results in the front of the car becoming light, of course, because those cars are almost doing a wheelie. So we've seen a lot of American clients starting running bigger and bigger front wheels, and we made the V2 so they could actually run a way bigger wheel. We had very, very good results with a smaller wheel. We usually run a 225 or 235. It's also important to check out the kind of wheel settings that you run. So it's a Wisefab calculator on the website, so you can calculate which wheel would fit or how much it would stick out. Also on the V2, there's a different top mount. I really like this a lot because it has this square hole in it, which can be adjusted with a wrench, loosen up those bolts, and you can very easily set a caster and camber on the top of it. A billet aluminum piece, of course, completely FD legal. You set these to 50 Newton meters, and it also gives you clearance for the shock top. Then we move to the knuckle, which is of course a very, very important part of the lock kit. A lot of engineering in this knuckle. To start with, for S14 and S13, there's different sizes of coilover bolts, so we provide them with these little tubes. So you can use this on both of them. The difference for S14 and S13 kits is this diameter. That's obviously a bigger diameter on the S14 than it is on the S13. So if you have an S13 and you're running S14 hubs, you should order the S14 kit. Very, very nice piece. If you look in here, this is all this. I really like this, how this is made. I don't know if it's easy to see on the camera. Very, very nice. Over here, there's an adjustable lock stop. So an interesting feature of the kit is obviously the Ackermann adjustment. The tie rod can be moved in this slot for different Ackermann settings, and the way you do that is by using these little plates. You can take a look at the teeth that are on this plate. Each tooth is 1.5 millimeters. So this one, for instance, has 4 teeth, so that's 6 millimeter. This one has 2, so that's 3 millimeter difference. And they go on here, and they go, there's another one, of course, that goes here on the top. The teeth are 1.5 millimeter because the tie rod has a 1.5 millimeter pitch. If you go from 1.5 millimeter Ackermann to 3 millimeter, you give it one turn. So that's exactly 1.5 millimeter. And that's how you can retain the same toe out and still experiment very quickly with a little bit of Ackermann. What people should realize is that there's no such thing as perfect Ackermann. The reason for that is simply that there's always a little bit of change in Ackermann. So if you're driving the car and you're making this angle, let's say 25 degrees angle, there's going to be different Ackermann than when you're at 50 or 60 degrees angle. So some guys drive with a lot of lock, some drive with a little less lock. So it's up to you to find out what your preferred Ackermann setting is. I think it's very nice. It's adjustable that way. Of course, you can mount them in both ways. So you can mount them with the teeth out and with the teeth in. So that's a very nice system to do that. It's something very nice to play around with. These shims are very, very quickly to change. And yeah, it's just very, very driver specific. Some drivers drive with a huge amount of Ackermann. Some guys have 0. Some guys actually have reverse Ackermann. So it's all up to you, and you can all do it with this kit. So if we take the weight of the kit, front knuckle, top mount, tie rod, and of course the arm, we are at 8.6 kilos, which is almost 19 pounds. Knuckle is 3.65 kilos. This is 0.65, and the arm alone has a weight of 3.5 kilos, which is 7.7 pounds. Again, we always seek the right compromise between light and strong. So that's the V2 lock kit. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Obviously the kit that made Wisefab very, very famous, Formula Drift. A lot of guys run it. Audi runs it, of course. James Dean runs it. Dwayne McKeever runs it. A lot of guys on this kit, a lot of championships. I think this kit has maybe had the most championships won of any lock kit ever produced. So hit us up if you want to hook up on this as well.
Don't forget to take a look at our website as well, einzel.nl.